Right. We're running a really tight timing ship here. Okay. Oops, Mackenzie, we see your presenter notes. There we go. All right. Welcome to the Office of Art and Archives, the U.S. House of Representatives. Presenters are Mackenzie Miessau and Michelle I'm so sorry, Strizever. And you gave me the phonetic pronunciation. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Meredith. Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Miessau. I'm the Registrar in the Office of Art and Archives, which is a part of the U.S. House of Representatives. I am a white woman in her mid-30s with light brown hair that's in a ponytail. I'm wearing a gray suit jacket and a black silk button-down shirt.
And good morning, or actually good afternoon, everyone from the East Coast. My name is Michelle Strizever, and I am the Photography and Digital Content Specialist in the Office of Art and Archives. I am a white woman in her early 40s with short dark hair, and I'm wearing a black shirt and sweater and glasses.
Michelle and I would like to acknowledge the Piscataway people on whose ancestral homelands we present from. We also want to thank Meredith, the Hood Museum, and our fellow presenters for the opportunity to speak with you today. So Michelle and I, as you have heard, we work for the U.S. House of Representatives in the Office of Art and Archives. The work of the Office of Art and Archives is to collect, preserve, and share the history of the House by archiving committee records, providing digitized primary sources and trusted resources for educators, students, historians, internal staff, and the public, and curating and preserving items in the collection of the U.S. House of Representatives. The collection includes artifacts, historic furniture, photographs, historic prints, including the print depicting the exterior of the U.S. Capitol at night, covered in snow that you see on screen, and portraits. Increasingly, the collection includes more born digital items such as photographs and videos. Users can view images of more than 2,000 objects in the House collection on our website at history.house.gov. So the Office of Art and Archives has rethought how digital surrogates of physical items in the House collection are publicly disseminated. We launched an open access portal to provide an easy way for users to download digital surrogates. We launched the portal in November 2022 with 35 records of historic prints. As an intermediate step, the portal is only available to our internal audience, which includes members of Congress, their staff, and various offices that support the everyday operations of the House of Representatives. While planning this portal, we deliberately considered the importance of embedded metadata and made it an integral part of the design. Our presentation today will cover the purpose of embedded metadata, our exploration of existing standards, and our survey of the information other repositories embed into shared digital surrogates. We will then focus specifically on 3 metadata fields: rights statements, usage policies, and alt text. Michelle will then discuss our data map and provide a short demonstration of how we embed metadata. And finally, we will end with a discussion of the current status of the open access portal. So in the past, digital surrogates were only shared via a lengthy permissions process. Administrative and descriptive metadata was not embedded into these digital surrogates, and as a result could easily be separated from the file itself. One such example is from a user. So this user said, when I worked for a publication, we sought permission to use images in our books on Congress. We had this ongoing joke about who owned the image of the EVS box, or the electronic voting system box, which is their electronic voting system boxes all throughout the floor of the House chamber with the buttons. So this person said, I'm sure we just used it without seeking permission because we didn't know where it came from. While planning the open access portal, we realized that there would be no opportunity to share administrative and descriptive metadata in the same method we had done in the past. As a result, we decided to embed metadata into the digital surrogates we share via the open access portal. The purpose of embedding metadata into digital surrogates shared through the portal is to provide information about the image and where it comes from. This way, users will be able to know what they are looking at if the file is separated from its original context. For example, if a user downloads the file from the portal and then opens it up a year later, unable to recall where the file came from or what the image shows. Additionally, metadata also provides the opportunity to make images more accessible to visually impaired users through alt text. To start, we examined the Library of Congress's recent recommended format statement, which includes recommended metadata fields for digital surrogates. The fields for digital surrogates of physical photos and other graphic images include title, creator, and contact information. Please note, these are the fields for the digital surrogates of physical items. The recommended format statement has different fields recommendations for born digital items. We then downloaded digital surrogates from the websites of other cultural institutions to examine how much metadata other cultural institutions were embedding into their digital surrogates. We wanted to see how closely real-world examples matched the recent metadata recommendations from the Library of Congress. We downloaded digital surrogates from 12 institutions and were surprised to find no consistent standard of metadata fields embedded into the digital surrogates. Many institutions chose to populate fields related to rights, such as copyright status, which we will talk about more in a bit. Many also chose to populate administrative and descriptive fields, such as title, description, and keywords. Additionally, we noticed that some institutions did not embed metadata into their digital surrogates, but had descriptive file names such as accession number and title. While we noticed embedded metadata was not consistent across all the institutions we examined, embedded metadata was sometimes also not consistent within an individual institution. We recognize that metadata policies may have changed, particularly for repositories that were early adopters of open access. Inconsistencies likely come from changes in how repositories have processed their digital surrogates over time. And we mention metadata inconsistencies not out of criticism, particularly regarding repositories that became early adopters of open access, but to observe recent practices. We then surveyed 14 repositories with open access portals to see what these institutions used for copyright status and image usage statements for users. At the outset, we defined rights statements and usage policies for ourselves. We defined a rights statement as a description of the copyright status of an item. And we defined a usage policy as an explanation of what a creator or institution permits a user to do with an item. It may include information about whether an item needs an attribution/credit line, whether commercial use is permitted, and whether adaptations of the item must have the same usage policy. Although rights statements and usage policies may overlap or be presented together, we believe that the copyright status of an item and what a user can do with it are distinct. Institutions handled rights statements in different ways. 57% explicitly mentioned that the open access images were in the public domain. 21% of the repositories asserted that copyright was held by the repository. We looked to the standardized rights statements created by the Rights Statements Consortium for Cultural Heritage Institutions to determine the appropriate rights for us. The consortium groups rights statements into 3 categories: in copyright, no copyright, and other rights statements, which includes no known copyright. We decided to use the statement no known copyright as the rights statement for the digital surrogates we distribute via the open access portal. Although we believe the digital surrogates we currently share in the public domain, we have not done a thorough investigation to rule out any unusual circumstances. We then noticed that the most We then noticed that most repositories use Creative Commons copyright licenses as the basis of their usage policy. These licenses enable creators to define how digital surrogates may be used with varying degrees of restrictions. We became particularly interested in the Creative Commons public domain mark, or CC-PDM. The public domain mark enables works that are no longer restricted by copyright to be marked as such in a standard and simple way, making them easily discoverable and available to others. Although the Creative Commons 0 or CC0 license was the most embedded into the digital surrogates we downloaded, we decided that the Creative Commons public domain mark made more sense to use rather than Creative Commons 0, because when CC0 is applied, it changes the copyright status of the work, effectively relinquishing all copyright and related or neighboring rights worldwide. On the other hand, the Creative Commons public domain mark is not legally operative in any respect. It is intended to function as a label, marking a work that is already free of known copyright restrictions. So in conclusion, you will see on the screen the rights statement and the usage policy we chose. We decided to use no known copyright as a rights statement for works that will be provided through the open access portal. We decided to use the Creative Commons public domain mark, CC-PDM, as the basis for our usage policy. It is written as, under Creative Commons public domain mark, this work has been identified as being free of known restrictions under copyright law, including all related and neighboring rights. These decisions make the most sense for the digital surrogates we are currently sharing via the open access portal, and for most of the digital surrogates we intend to share in the future. However, it is of course possible that other digital surrogates will require different rights and usage statements, and we are aware of that.
So moving on to alt text, and some of us may be pretty familiar with this already if we attended the Power Hour session. So some of this might be a little familiar to you, but basically alt text is a description of an image or other non-textual content in words. Screen readers and refreshable Braille displays read it out loud. This makes these images accessible to users with visual impairments. Metadata also provides the opportunity to make images more accessible to all users through alt text. And so we felt that alt text was critical to include in this project. However, when we launched the project, alt text was not an available metadata field in the program that we were using, which was Adobe Bridge, to embed the alt text. But because we thought it was so critical, we decided to prepare all the alt text anyway, and we included it in the description field. So it's still there, it's just not marked as alt text. However, a new version of the program has been released. The 2023 bridge was released, and now it does have an alt text field, so we are really psyched about that. We are in the process of moving the metadata from the description field, the alt text metadata from the description field to the correctly labeled field. So we're going to be doing that soon. Next slide, please. We included descriptive and metadata, administrative metadata in two ways using the Adobe Bridge program, as I mentioned. So I'm going to show you data maps of the two different ways that we embed the metadata. The first one is using the IPTC Cultural Heritage Metadata Panel. IPTC, you might be familiar with this metadata. It's called the International Press Telecommunications Council, and they create standards for news media. They developed special metadata fields for cultural heritage institutions like us. So this panel within Adobe Bridge allows for metadata to be embedded in bulk using a spreadsheet that you upload. This metadata map shows the descriptive fields that we wanted to embed. So that's on the left-hand side, we wanted to embed title, creator, date, source, accession number, object web page, credit line, right status, usage terms, and keywords. And then it also shows where in the middle column where that information fits into the metadata fields in the cultural heritage panel. And then on the right-hand column is where we put those fields in the open access portal, because we ended up deciding to recycle a lot of the descriptive metadata that we created for embedding in the digital surrogates. We thought we can also use this work again and make them visible in the cataloging on the open access portal. So the second data map is for the administrative metadata that we wanted to include. This is more basic stuff like creator, phone, email, and website. So how people can reach us, and so that they know when they come across that image 5 years down the road where it came from. And this goes into a different section of the Adobe Bridge program, just called IPTC Core. And so because alt text is a brand new field that has been added here, we have to add it into the core section. It's not in the cultural heritage panel yet, but we hope that in the future it will be in the panel. So if we could, yeah, now what we're going to do is give you a little demonstration of how we embedded the metadata, and we're going to show you how we did it for this print, which is one of the prints that is on the portal. So this is a video of opening an image in Bridge, and I had clicked on the image, and you can see on the left-hand side, I'm scrolling through the IPTC core fields, and you can see that there's nothing in there. Now I'm opening the panel. This is just to prove to everybody that there's nothing, there's no real metadata in there to begin with. Just a little bit of, when this was scanned. But now I am going to go into the tools, and I am appending the administrative metadata template, which is a template that we have that we can add to all of the images. So that was basically the telephone number, our information. And now I'm importing that spreadsheet that we mentioned before to the cultural heritage metadata panel. And you can see it was successfully imported, and now I'm going to open it back up and show you, prove to you that it embedded the metadata. So now you can see there's some metadata added in there, and I'm going to do a little tidying up of some fields that we want to have and some fields that we don't want to have information in there. And now this is the image rights panel, which Mackenzie talked to you about the image rights. So I'm going to click the save button for this image. And there's one more thing that I wanted to do, which is copying and pasting the alt text for this image. It's not in the template. It's something that we're adding at this point manually into here. So that is it. If you could go to the next slide, please. Okay, so here you can see the image in the background with some screenshots overlaid with the different, some of the different metadata that we embedded in this image. So on the left-hand side, you can see the IPTC core panel with, with our contact info, and then with the alt text that we added, which is more of a little bit of an extended description. And then on the right-hand side, this is the image rights portion of the metadata that we embedded. So as we mentioned earlier, we are currently in the process of going back and moving the metadata for alt text into the correct field now that it is available to us. We're working on doing that. We launched the portal internally November of last year, and it has already seen a lot of use in our house community. So we're excited about that, and we want to do more outreach to let people know that it's there. But one of the most important things that we're working on is we are going to we're trying to make a plan to make it much more widely available to the general public. So that is something that we are working toward. We're also looking to add more images to the portal. So we're going to, our curatorial office is going to meet up soon and debrief about how the process went of adding this first round and what do we want to do differently, and what do we want to add for the next round. And we're constantly evaluating and doing outreach to make this an iterative process moving forward. But yeah, we're just really hoping to get this more widely open to the public in the future. So, please, if you're interested, do let us know and we can keep you posted about that. And I'm going to throw it back over to Mackenzie to finish up.
So that brings us to the end, and I and Michelle, we would like to sincerely thank you all for attending our presentation. We are happy to answer your questions, and again, feel free to reach out to us if you are interested to hear about when we make the portal more accessible to more audiences, but also feel free to reach out to us with any other additional questions. We can be reached by phone at 202-226-1300 and by email at art@mail.house.gov. We encourage you also to visit our website, which is history.house.gov, to explore the collection of the U.S. House of Representatives. So thank you again very much. Let's stop sharing screen.
Okay, we'll open it for questions, and I actually dropped one in because I was curious about something. So my question is, can you share any thoughts on how embedded metadata may or may not help? Oh, that's somebody else's. I didn't read mine yet. Somebody else jumped in, I'm sorry. And it's recorded. You may already have mentioned this, but will alt text be indexed to be searchable in the portal? A use case I think about here is that artworks that have lackluster or minimal subject tags, but like maybe the alt text might be the more sort of robust descriptive. So wanted to see if that was something that you were considering.
Yeah, Mackenzie, do you want me to
go ahead, Michelle?
Yeah, so we for the portal right now we are recycling the data that we have. So all of the descriptive metadata that we're embedding in the images, we're also adding to the Dublin core fields in the portal. So it is not, the portal is not going to be searching the metadata for the images, I don't believe. It's not a portal that we built ourselves, so I'm not completely sure how the search capability is, but because we're also adding that information to the metadata, the visible metadata in the portal, those fields will be searchable. So it's kind of doing double duty over there.
Our next question, can you share any thoughts on how the embedded metadata may or may not help with search engine optimization? For example, getting images to rise up in search results in Google Images. So similar to what I asked, but better.
I can start, and then if you have anything to add, Michelle, go ahead. But that would be great. And I think kind of Michelle's answer from before is that it's not really searching the embedded metadata. So I don't necessarily think that it's going to help. And also when we were really thinking about this process and wanting to embed metadata into the digital surrogates that we share, it was more a focus on making sure that that information traveled with the file rather than having it be able to kind of like be found easier. Of course, we would like all of our images to be found easier. And hopefully in the future that could be a part of, kind of the next iteration of the open access portal. But at this moment in time, it was just the priority was just having that information travel with the file once it was downloaded.
I also just want to add, we are like we're including all this information in there, and we don't necessarily know how it's all going to be used in the future. I mean, I know as a researcher who has used images from other repositories, it's always really useful to have embedded metadata because I often will look at it when I'm pulling images together for a publication, say. But we also thought about this project with an eye to kind of not knowing where the future would go, and thinking about it as an investment of our current time and resources for building a really robust, useful, and hopefully consistent data structure in the digital surrogates that we're presenting, because we don't know what's going to happen with it. It would be really cool if this would help with search engine optimization. I don't actually know if that is happening yet. I think that would be great, and I think it would make sense for it to be. And in fact, also with the alt text for these images. When I typically think of alt text, I am thinking of like if there's a web page or even like a PowerPoint or a Word file, it's this machine readable data that sits behind the image and is read out loud to a screen reader. And so when I think about alt text, I'm thinking about putting it in, say, in like the HTML of a website, not necessarily embedded in the image, but regardless, we thought it was critical to do that as a future way of accessing and for people to experience the images. So that's we're not totally sure about what is going to happen, but we're excited to see what the future brings.
We have probably time for like one or two more questions. If folks want to pop into the chat. We're getting to the end of the day for a lot of folks. Everybody, just another minute or so.
Well, as Mackenzie said, we're so happy for you to contact us if you have any questions or any other feedback or ideas, or just want to know more about this. Please feel free to send us an email or phone call or whatever.
Well, I think we are just about at time, so thank you so much. Embedded metadata is definitely like it's you know, at a minimum, it's a useful communication tool, but then also as somebody who's also, you know, worked with obtaining images for publications, yeah, you know, and then rooting them up later and saying, who do I have to call to ask for permission again? Super useful communication tool. Thank you so much. This is fabulous. Really good nuts and bolts here. For those who are still on the Zoom call, our next session is an informal open office hours with Dr. Breaker Ferguson. So stick around if you want to chat, or you know, we're happy to have you also sort of go camera off and eavesdrop. So thank you again. I'm just going to invite Breaker to unmute and pop up so we can say hi.